Yeah, I mean, I told them today, we got to take care of us. It's the team that typically makes the least amount of mistakes, wins week one. So a lot of known unknowns, and we just got to handle us.
Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, who a season ago the Cardinals were sub 500. They were 8-9 on the season, and they're nearly a touchdown favorite in the Dome this weekend. 6.5 points. That's the largest favorite in week one in the NFL season this year. Says a lot about the Saints. But what does it say about the Arizona Cardinals? Let's find out. Darren Urban, azcardinals.com. He's on Twitter, X, @CardsChatter. He's covered the Cardinals for more than a couple of decades now, and he joins us here. Darren, we appreciate it, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing very well. You see the 6.5 point spread, the Cardinals, that kind of favorite. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, obviously it plays into a lot of different stuff. I mean, number one, you kind of mentioned where the Saints are in their rebuilding process, and I think that's kind of understandable. But, the Cardinals are where the Saints were a couple of years ago. And when Jonathan Gannon came in, they really ripped apart the roster. They broke it down to the studs. They obviously kept some people, including the quarterback Kyler Murray, but they really redid quite a bit of what the rest of this roster looked like. And this is year 3, and they pushed really hard. They made a big emphasis on upgrading the defense this offseason. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. in his second year. They got Trent McBride as a burgeoning star in the league. And I think they believe this is the year that they can really make a push to maybe win the division in the NFC West.
For 4-13, Gannon's first year, to 8-9 a season ago, you sort of touched on it there, but internally or around this organization, what is the expectation this year in Arizona?
Well, it depends on where you're talking internally. I mean, I think the team and the players and the coaching staff have done a really nice job of making sure that you're not going to get ahead of yourselves. In fact, somebody asked Kyler Murray today, is this going to be a playoff team? And his simple answer was one day at a time. He wasn't even going to go there. It was going to be about, like, today's Wednesday. They're even hesitant to talk much about what the Saints are because Sunday is Sunday. That all being said, yeah, I think the fan base is expecting another jump. They did improve to 8-9 last year. They struggled down the stretch, but when they went into their bye after 10 games, they were in first place in the division. They had a disappointing end, but they feel like that's a team that, a couple breaks here and there, they would have been better last year, and they're definitely expecting to make that jump, especially with the improvements they've made defensively.
You mentioned Kyler Murray. He nearly threw for 4,000 yards a season ago. Is it safe to say that the injury, some of the inconsistency is behind him, and you're expecting, it's hard to believe you're going into year 7, but that here in year 7 as a veteran player, they're expecting a Pro Bowl caliber Kyler Murray?
Well, I mean, here's the situation. When the new coaching staff came in, he had just messed up his ACL
right
in December, so he missed the first half of the year. He played pretty decently in 2023 after he came back. Last year, not surprisingly, I don't think he totally felt 100% comfortable with the knee, just because that's what often happens with a guy coming off an ACL. It's not just the first part where he comes back, but that full season after. I've seen it multiple times with different positions, so that doesn't really surprise me. He played well at times. Consistency, you mentioned, that does seem to be the huge key. He'll have moments where he doesn't get the job done when they need him to get the job done in certain situations, and he knows that, and the coaching staff knows that, and that's kind of the next level for this group. They didn't really do a whole lot on offense in terms of making any changes. So they're counting on Kyler Murray to have that consistency. They're counting on Marvin Harrison Jr. to take that year 2 jump that a lot of rookies do. And that, I think, there's a lot pushed in there in terms of where they're expecting their offensive production to come from.
Darren Urban's with us at Cards Chatter on X. If you want to get him there, azcardinals.com. Mark, look, I want to ask you about the last 2 first-round picks. We'll start with Marvin Harrison, who, you're right. I mean, he caught 62 balls, just under 900 yards, 8 touchdowns. A very productive rookie season, but maybe with the standard a lot of people maybe expected from Harrison, maybe a little under performing based on what the expectation was, right or wrong. What is the reasonable expectation for what type of jump year 1 to 2 we might see with Marvin Harrison Jr. this year?
I'm going to say the same thing I kind of said last year in terms of just statistics. I think some of it is going to be nuanced in what it looks like in the context of the offense, and rather than like, hey, if he gets 110 catches for 1,200 yards, that's it. Because this team is very old school in terms of, I think they run 2 tight ends a ton of the time. They want to run the ball a bunch. They've got a tight end who, again, is one of the best in the league. I think can Marvin and should Marvin have 1,000 yards? I believe he should. But I kind of want to see how it played out. You mentioned his numbers last year. They were good. But as you watched it, it's kind of like Kyler Murray. There were moments when it seemed like it was really clicking, and then there was other moments where it wasn't. And they need to get to the point where it wasn't a lot less, So I think that's kind of where they are. Harrison put on 11 pounds of muscle in the offseason. He's bigger. He doesn't seem to have lost any speed, but he's in a better position in terms of guys that might be pressing him, in terms of getting contested catches. And I think they learned some things about his game that will help them in terms of how they scheme up how he gets open too.
A couple more for you. I mentioned Harrison last year. Walter Nolan, who people here know very well from Texas A&M, then Ole Miss, just such a dominant defensive lineman in the Southeastern Conference. What have been the early returns on Walter Nolan?
Well, unfortunately, Walter Nolan hasn't practiced since OTAs. He hurt his calf right before training camp. He's been on the physically unable to perform list. They really liked the strides he'd been making in the offseason, and he didn't have a whole lot of pressure on him because they had a first-round pick last year, Darius Robinson, who's going into his second year. They signed Calais Campbell. They've got Dalvin Tomlinson. They've got a couple other vets, Dante Stills and L.J. Collier. They really liked the defensive line they had put together, and Nolan was going to be a part of that. They didn't have to have him star, but he hurt his calf, so he's out at least the first 4 games, and we'll kind of see how that goes. I think they have high hopes for him, and because of the depth they build on the defensive line, I don't think it necessarily is going to hurt the Cardinals on the field for now, and you just hope he gets back and is able to kind of contribute something probably in the second half of the season.
Darren, if there's one big question for Arizona that they need answered here as they push off from the dock in 2025, what is it?
I mean, for me, and again, part of this is because we've already talked about Kyler Murray, but look, they put a lot into their front seven and their pass rush. They've been able to scheme up pass rush, but they've really worked hard to get some guys out there. They signed Josh Sweat free agency. They traded for Baron Browning last year. I'm very curious to see how their pass rush impacts their defense this year. And if it can make a jump forward, I think defensively this team can do a lot of damage, and then it kind of takes some of that pressure off of the Kylers and the Marvins.
Flip it to the other side. What would you say is pretty widely recognized as the position of strength either side of the ball?
I would probably say the running back room. They've got James Conner. They've got Trey Benson, who's in the second year from Florida State. When you add that to an offensive line that I think is underrated, I don't necessarily think it's one of the best in the league, but I think it's way more underrated than I think people don't give it the credit it deserves. They've been one of the best rushing teams in the league since Gannon showed up, and I don't expect that to change.
One more for you. Your time very much appreciated. Darren Urban's with us from azcardinals.com, at Cards Chatter on Twitter. You can get him there. If Jonathan Gannon has a blueprint to get out of New Orleans with a win and start 1-0, what does that look like?
Oh, I think it's pretty easy. I think you want to get the running game going. I think you want to play action in the pass game, and I think they want to obviously harass Spencer Rattler. I mean, I don't think there's any secret that the Saints quarterback situation might not be quite where they want it to be right now. You've upgraded that defense. I think he's really would like this defense to kind of take control of this game if at all possible. I think that and really getting the offense to a mistake-free, consistent performance, even if it doesn't score 40 points, I think he would be very happy with that.
He is Darren Urban. Saints Cardinals open up week 1 of the NFL season Sunday in the Dome. Darren, we appreciate a couple of minutes, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.